increased demand for alternative energy and a decrease in oil production in a continent that has energy challenges also places added pressure on an already struggling African economy. The Africa Oil Week platform allows private organizations to step up and meet the demand asked for by the African countries. CNBC Africa's Fifi Peters caught up with ND Western's General Counsel, Omo Omoro Dion, about their plans to increase their gas supply to Nigeria.
So the purpose of this conference, really, the conversations that have been taking place thus far, is how to maximize Africa's natural resources. So in your case, it would be looking at maximizing the potential of oil and gas right now to realize greater value, of course, for the continent, but also to help with the global energy transition. Your take on that and what ND Western is doing right now to realize the potential of our markets?
So, ND Western is perfectly situated because, like you know, of the fossil fuels, gas is the cleanest of the lot.
To some?
To some. Well, I mean, when you compare it to coal and crude oil.
Sure.
So we see it as, I mean, the midway fuel, and so we find ourselves seated right there. And the ESG and the global transitions is something that ND Western takes very serious, right? And we believe that while keying into the global idea of transitioning properly to clean energy, we need to have an African-centric approach to it. Now, what I mean by African-centric approach is when you look at how much Africa contributes to global emissions when compared to the fully industrialized, rather minimal. As here, it's about 4% if you look at roughly around 4%. So perhaps we need to look at an Afrocentric approach to contributing to net zero, right? That allows us to industrialize, that allows us to meet SDG 7 and SDG 9, that allows us to get there, not necessarily too far away from the global, agenda, but something that is Afrocentric. So I believe this is an ND Western that gas, which we have huge reserves of. We have huge reserves of gas. We have surface capabilities that can allow us to get to 600 million scf per day if, we deal with all the other challenges that, that come around our areas of operation in the Western Delta. So we are well situated to contribute to enabling Nigeria, Africa, West Africa, meeting SDG 7 if we are allowed to fully exploit our gas and we get the right kind of financing. That is understanding of, the peculiar context that we operate in Africa and the roads that we need to travel to get to where we need to.
So we spoke to some financiers and they said that it's not that they don't have the money or they're not willing to use the money, particularly in this area. They're talking about the lack of shovel-ready projects, bankable projects in your space. And I'd like your take on that.
Okay, so I have to be careful how I speak about that because, of course, we want to be bankable, right?
Yeah.
And, when they say we don't, a lot of the projects they want to finance in Africa or Nigeria, so they are not bankable. Now because of the whole green energy evolution and the insistence of the shareholders and major investors in these financial institutions for strict ESG compliances, right? So when you have those checklists in the environmental space, when you have those strict checklists that African operators, Nigerian operators should mix, we may stumble a little bit because we are evolving into it. It's something that we want to do, something that we have all consciously started doing, and I'll speak for ND Western. We have set up the context now. We are engaged with a consultant for proper ESG reporting to go into to show exactly where we are. First, to meet our own local regulations. We have local ESG regulations in that regard. And we believe that allow us to meet our local regulations first before we start aspiring to those very, very, very stringent, more global standards.
Sure.
Yes. So what are we doing in that space? We are aligning ourselves around the regulations in Nigeria that that ensure that we produce our oil and gas sustainably. And we're already poised to start reporting in that regard. And so when you talk about backability, what we expect is about to be collaborative, a collaborative relationship with these financial institutions. Where are you now, right? What are you doing? Where are the steps? Where are you going to go to meet these standards? Can we start financing you incrementally along those lines, rather than just shutting down the basis of, look, you are not bankable because you don't meet X.
Sure.
So that's the way I say it.
Okay. I think that's a fair response. Yeah. But let's talk about the business specifically, and also your plans for the period ahead. In terms of new projects, any kind of exploration activity that you are thinking about pushing forward to, if you can just give us that detail. Okay,
so ND Western has some significant gas reserves. So, and like I said, we're currently doing about 280 to 290 million scf per day, but we have capacity to do about, when I mean capacity, I mean processing capacity. The plant will have three, from OML 34 where we operate, we have 3 points. We have the Kugeni East plant, we have the non-associated gas, what we call NAT1, and we have the non-associated gas plant NAT2. Ugeni East has been operating for a very long time. So part of our investment decisions now around, replacing that plant, so that we enhance our food processing capabilities. And then investment is in bringing out the gas from the gas. Now, you're faced with the multiple challenges of the right pricing for your gas, right? Because, we are mandated by laws to have focus on gas on the power companies yet, before you go to willing buyer, willing seller relationships. There's a bit to be done in making that pricing a bit more attractive for investment. So we are doing it steadily. First, deal with your surface facilities. Enhance your NAB1, as we're speaking specifically for ourselves now, before we then go to draw to reserves from the ground. So do you want to talk about where our immediate focus? And then we're equally looking at the midstream area. ND Western now is equally operating. We're invested in the Lagos Free Zone. Yes, we're invested in Lagos Free Zone. We are actually invested in both building a gas distribution infrastructure there and then working with our partners to supply gas to them. That's already in play. Agreements have been signed and FID is about to be taken. So while we are looking at the upstream side, we are equally looking at the midstream side. And ultimately, so if you want to speak about where we want to go in the immediate future, that's in favor, in a nutshell for ND Western.
And then how do you measure the export potential, and what kind of opportunities are you looking for there?
I would say we have about 60 million scf per day go to the WACP. And that's because ND Western, acquired 45% of Shell, Total, and Ajib's interest in OML 34. And when we acquired this, we innovated contracts, and which include a contract that underpin gas supply to the West African space. And these contracts are quite complex contracts that involve governments and institutions. So right now, we do about 60 million scf per day of export to the WACP. There's plenty room for a whole lot more in that regard if the contracts and the transactions that underpin them are probably relooked at and restructured. So there is a whole lot of opportunities in that space. In the NNND space as well, we've not started in that regard, but a core shareholder of ND Western, which is Aradel, the core share, significant shareholder of ND Western, is the only independent indigenous entity in Nigeria that is producing directly into the NNNG in Nigeria.
Sure.
So, ND Western and shareholders, we do have capacity, to expand our gas export capabilities, but it will be incremental. It will be underpinned by the right kind of investment, the attraction that is there. But are we doing it already? We are. 60 million scf already goes to what on the average daily.
All right.
So yes, that's.
If we just finish off with your reflections on the policy environment, I did hear your response in the close partnership that you already have with the state. But a lot of company players are saying that what will be conducive for growth in your industry going forward is the right regulatory framework and the right policy framework. Changes in Nigeria recently with the new administration coming in, trying to do its best to make Nigeria the prime spot for investment, trying to create this conducive, business-friendly environment. Your reflections on the framework that is encompassing your industry right now and whether they can be improved?
So, I think it's in Africa we say the morning determines the day.
Sure.
Yes. Now, the morning of the new administration in Africa is a good word, in that the right kind of people are being put in the right places. And we expect that when you put the right people in the right places, ultimately the right things will be done. So is the morning good with this new administration? Yes, the morning is definitely good. However, regulators need to understand that they are partners with operators to make the entire space, African space, Nigerian space, to make it attractive. They need to, until they see that squarely in their heads. We are moving there. I mean, with the PIA in Nigeria that separated the upstream regulator from the midstream and downstream regulator, it clearly showed a focus, to align regulations properly. But there's still a whole lot more to be done for the regulators to regard themselves as partners. There's a whole lot to be done in that regard. And for Nigeria, like I've said, the president, who is the Minister of Petroleum as well, is putting square pegs in square holes. And his body language is one that we are very encouraged by. So I do expect that body language will project to the regulators. And I mean, our commission head was here, and he was here. I watched him speak, and I was encouraged when I watched him speak. And they need to understand that, the mergers, the acquisitions that need to be done to unlock Nigeria's reserves, they need to enhance, they need to facilitate, of course, in accordance with our laws and regulations. But they need to see themselves as partners in making Nigeria collectively, attractive.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
No, really nice to saying there in Nigeria around the morning determining the day. Good thing you're not here in South Africa, in Cape Town specifically, where you can have 4 seasons in one day. So, Owen, but thank you so much for your time, sir.